Okay, so this is what we created last time. Let's see, so whenever I press the call button, which is 1 for me, it will spawn a vehicle mount behind the character, behind the character's camera, and the mount will always follow the person wherever they go. And so far I can spawn as many as I want, and they'll always spawn behind my camera. So I'm just going to keep on pressing now, and they always spawn out of camera. Yo, check that out. In this episode, I'll make it that you can interact with the mount and climb on it. So let's do that. Okay, so one way, the best way we can get the character, our player, to interact with the mount is with an interface. So let's create that in here. Right click and go to blueprints, then blueprint interface. Let's call this interact interface. Open it up, and you see this function automatically gets created. Let's call this mount interact. Let's open this up, and it's grayed out. You cannot add stuff here. It's a read only, but we will override this function in our player and in our mount and change the stuff. Okay, so now we've got this interface. Now we need the player and the player, open up the player and the mount to use these interfaces. So come up to class default in the player, the third person character, and class settings. Go to class settings, and over here by interfaces you can implement interfaces. So far this guy's got no interfaces. Just come over here and press add, and then let's get that interact interface. Okay, so now he's inheriting the interact interface. Let's go back to our content browser and open up the mount. Open up, and let's go to class settings for the mount, and also add that same interface to this guy. Interact. Okay, so now, just compile and save, and compile the player as well. Okay, so now they're both interacting from that interface. Now let's make the player be able to detect the mount. So to do that, we are going to need to add a collision capsule. So over here at the viewport of the player, go to add component and search collision, and just get the capsule collision. Let's call it interact detect. Okay, now let's move this facing out of the player. So now whenever this bumps to something, we'll make it detect if it can interact with it. So scroll down, then over here on component begin overlap, press the green plus, and go back to our event graph, and you'll see it created this event. Now this will execute whenever this capsule overlaps with anything in the world. So let's drag off other actor and search if it has got an interface. So does implement interface. Select this node. In the drop down menu, get the interact interface. So now I will check if the other actor that we're overlapping with has an interact interface. And then keep in B and click to create a branch. And drag this return value to the condition of the branch and connect these up. And just for testing purposes, let's print a string so far. Let's call it can interact. Compile and save. And this should work. So let's go back to our game. Press play. Oh, you can press play by pressing Alt and P. Okay, so I'm in the game now. Press 1 to spawn my mount. Here it is. And then you can see in the top left it says can interact when I go over the mount. Now it is specifically detecting this capsule on the mount. So if you like just checking the front of them or the back of him, it won't detect. It's got to overlap this middle capsule. Okay, so now let's make this a bit prettier, make it look a bit better. So let's have a little message appear over the mount when we can interact with it. So to do that, let's create a widget. Right click and go to use interfaces, widget blueprint. Let's call this interact message. Open it up. This is our widget blueprint. So come to search palette and type in text. Let's just drag the text in. Actually first, let's delete the canvas panel. Then drag the text in. Press the text. And let's call it press F to interact. Okay, and let's see. Over here, align it to the center. Compile and save. Now let's go back to our character, and you can delete this debug print text. And let's now drag off the true and search add widget to component. Okay, click on the add widget to component, and now click on the node, and it gives us all these options on the right side. We want to change the space to screen, from world to screen. And over here, widget class, we can select the interact message we just created. Now let's drag off the return value and promote this to a variable. Call this interact message. And now drag off the interact message variable and search attach to component. And there's two options. We want the bottom one. The target is the scene component. So now the parent, what we want to attach it to is just click on the parent and drag it all the way back to over here on the component begin overlap, and plug it into other comp. Stands for other component. Just going to double click on this blue line to add some reroute nodes to make the scene more organized. And now I'll compile and save. Let's see if we go back to the game. Let's see what happens when we overlap the vehicle. There you see the message pops up. And it's going to stay there. So let's make it, if we turn away from it, it gets destroyed. Exit the game. Go back to our player blueprint. Click on this capsule component again. Scroll down and get on component end overlap. Click it and then go back to the event graph, and you see it's created here. Now let's see, on end overlap, let's drag our interact message into the scene and keep it control to get it, let go. Or you can just drag in and choose get. Right click on the variable, and we want to convert to validated get. Now connect these two. This is going to check if the interact message is valid, if it exists. So we want to get destroy component. Destroy component, and the component we want to destroy is the interact message. Drag that in. And then drag the interact message into here and choose set. You can also drag it in, keeping Alt and let go. They'll also make it a set. Or you can just drag it right into this execute pin and we'll set it. And I'll leave this empty. So it's going to set the variable back to none. If you compile and save, go back to our game. This should work. Spawn them out. It's spawned on top of there. And there's no nav mesh there, so it's not going to move to me. So let me try spawn another one. And interact message is appearing. If we go away, it disappears. Okay, so we got that working nicely. So now we can detect if we can interact with the mount. Let's make it so the player can climb on. Let's open the mount blueprint. Go to the event graph. In the event graph of the mount AI, let's right click and let's get that interface event we created in the interact interface. We called it mount interact. And we are inheriting, so we should be able to access that. Search mount interact. And under add events, event mount interact. We want this. Now off here, we want to be able to, I need to add an input. So go back to the interact interface. And what's the event? Under inputs, press plus. And let's call this, I need to create a variable for the character who's controlling the mount. So let's call it rider character. And let's change the type to a character. Okay, compile and save. Go back to the mount blueprint, and now you see what we got this input. So let's drag off here and promote this to a variable. Let's also call this rider character. And now let's make him, so we want to make the character who interacts with this interface, we want to position him on this vehicle, and we want him to play animation. For the position, let's create a scene component. So add component, go to scene. Let's call this rider location. And move him wherever you want. I did some testing, and I think -18 the X and 15 the Z works well. I'll see if it works for this later. Compile and save. Let's go back to the event graph. So let's make this guy play an animation. One thing I forgot to do is add an animation in. So I've got an animation I created. I'll add it in the description of the video. You just drag it in here. Choose the skeleton to be the mannequin skeleton, so your character. Then import. And you can check the animation. just like a little idle of him sitting down on the speeder bike. Let's right click on the animation and go to create anim montage. And this name's okay already, just press enter. You can open this. And anim montages are used to splice different animations together. We're not going to be doing that. We're just going to convert the animation to anim montage just so we can use it in the play anim montage node. It's pretty much the exact same as the animation we just had. Go back to the mount blueprint, drag off here, and get the mesh. Mesh. Okay, it's too many. Oh, there we go. Under character, get mesh. Drag off here and search play animation. And now you can select the speeder mount idle underscore montage we created. Let's connect these. Tick looping. And now we want to attach this guy to that rider location. So search attach to component. We want the parent to be the rider location. So drag off rider location, connect it to parent. Then let me just add some reroute nodes to make this look a bit better. And now let's also, actually not just yet. I was going to possess, but let's just test if this works so far. Let's go to the game, press play. Oh wait, it's not going to work so far because I haven't told the character to execute this function. So let's go to our player. And since we are also inheriting that interact interface, we can call this event. So it's called mount interact. Select the call function mount interact. Let's make this happen whenever we press the interact key, which was F. Actually, I see here this target is grayed out. Let's delete this function. We need to drag off other actor here from our begin overlap and call it from that. So mount interact message. Now it's not grayed out. Connect the key to it. So now whenever we press F, this will happen. Actually, let's also make sure the interact message is valid so we know we can interact. Just convert this variable to get validated register again, drag it in, right click, convert to validated get. And if true, mount interact. If false, let's just print string. Just say can't enter. Compile and save. And also let's add a string to the mount event. Print string, let's call this one enter. just for debugging purposes. Let's go back to the game, press play, spawn a vehicle, walk up to it. So if I press F now, it will say can't enter. Now I'm overlapping and the message pops up. Now if I press F, it says enter. So the function is working, it's just not moving the character. Getting a bunch of errors. Let me see, what is this stuff? Ah yes, made a mistake here. I let this writer character empty. Let's make this writer character reference self. So this blueprint will be the writer character. Or better yet, I let this writer character empty. Let's drag off and get player character. Compile and save. Go back to the game. Spawn the mount. Overlap, press F, and our camera is going crazy. Let me just fix that quickly. Go to viewport, camera, boom. Let's do collision test. Let's turn that off for now. This is for when the camera collides against a wall, it will zoom in on the player, so it won't overlap the wall. But what's happening now is it is overlapping the vehicle and it's going crazy. So let's spawn the vehicle again, press F to interact, and it goes crazy again. Let me see what's happening. So I figured out the problem over here with our attached to component node in the mount blueprint. Location and rotation rule, we must snap to target, both of them. You can keep the scale rule, keep to relative. Compile and save this. Go back to the game. Spawn the mount. Interact, and you see our guy snap to that location. Okay, next thing. Open up the mount blueprint again. Let us just need to fix this because I changed it and I'll try to figure out the problem. Okay, let's possess the vehicle now. So drag off attach to component and search possess. It doesn't appear, so untick this context sensitive boolean, and now they appear. Select possess. The target will be the player controller. You can tick context sensitivity back on. And the pawn will be self. Now let's also give this vehicle a camera. So go to add component and search spring arm, and then search camera. Okay, the spring arm is like a boom that the camera is attached to. So let's select that, rotate it up a little bit, and the target arm length, let's make it 500. Okay, dokie. Compile and save. And now let's test this out. Spawn the vehicle. Spawn the vehicle. Interact with it. And okay, yeah, I know what the problem is. Open the mount again. The spring arm of the mount is untick do collision test. It's colliding with the character or the vehicle. Let's play again. I keep on spawning up there. Okay, spawn the vehicle. Interact, and now you see the player is on the vehicle and he plays animation. Now we cannot control the vehicle because I have not added any controls yet. Let's do that next. Open up the Mount AI blueprint again, go to the event graph. Let's create some controls. Right click and let's get the input turn. Go to access event and get turn. Now these are custom made inputs that were created for the third person character. If you go to edit project settings, you go down to input, you see here's all a bunch of custom inputs, action mappings, and you get access mappings. Action mappings are buttons, and access mappings are also buttons, but they can change value. So for the access mapping move forward, W is a value of 1, and S is a value of -1. So we'll be using the move forward, move right, and turn access values. Go back to the blueprint, the mount. And now with turn, drag off the access value, and search is equal, search equal and exclamation mark. This is short for not equal to float. The float is not equal to 0, which means it's moving. Drag off the returned value and search branch. So it's not equal to 0, which means we are turning. Then let's make the speed of the turn times the float. Let's make it 25. And drag off the branch and search add controller your input. And then connect these two values. Compile and save. We can quickly test if this is working in game. Spawn the vehicle, test with the vehicle. Now if you move your mouse, you can see where you're turning. Now let's add the axis mappings for moving forward, left and right. Right click and search forward and get the axis event move forward. Check again if we are not equal to 0. Get the axis value, times it by another float. This will be the speed. Let's make that also 25. Value and search add actor. No, okay, drag off the true. Add actor local offset. This data location, right click on it and split struct pin so we can get the individual values. And let's connect this to the Y. Now let's create the one for turning left and right. Right click, search move right, axis event. Pretty much copy and paste this middle part. As well as add local offset. But instead of changing the Y, we'll be changing the Z, I think. Actually, I think I'm mistaken. For the left and right, we will change the Y. For the forward and back, we will change the X. Okay, Z is up and down. Let's test this out. Okay, spawn the mount, enter the mount, move left and right, forward and backwards, turn around. There we go. Now let's make it that this character can now get out. We press F again and repossess the player. Make the function for the player to get off the mount. Let's create a new interface event. So go to our interact interface, or a function, create a new function. Press plus E by the function. Let's call this toggle input. Let's add one variable. Let's make it a bool. Let's call it enable. Okay, now go back to the third person character, the event graph. Let's call that function we just made. Search toggle input. That event toggle input. Compile and save. Oh, I see this parameter wasn't set through. Compile and save on the interact interface. Then compile and save. Let me add that toggle input again. Nope, the event. There we go. Now off here, we want to branch off the enabled. And then we want to possess the player. We'll make the target get player controller and the pawn to be self. Compile and save. And now we want to call this event on the mount. So go to the mount, get the rider character, and get toggle input. I want to call this when we press the interact key again. So that's the F key. Also, so this will possess the character. But let's undo all this animation and I don't need this. Sorry about that. That was from debugging early on. We want to undo all this animation and attach it to the component. So let's create a location for him to get off at. So add scene component. Drag on the capsule component so it's part of the whole thing. Let's call this dismount location. Now go back to the event graph, get the dismount location, drag off here, and set actor. Actually, no, just right click and set actor. It's set actor location. Target would be self. That's right. Drag off dismount location and search get world location. Then connect this return value to the new location. And the target should be the rider character. Next, we want to detach the rider character. So search detach from actor. Change all of these to keep world. The bottom one, the scale you can keep additive. Connect them. Then we want to stop the animation we're playing. So get the mesh of the rider character again. Stop animation. And stop and a montage. Okay, you don't need to get the mesh. Just off the rider character, stop and a montage. Let's choose that specific and a montage we created. Connect them. And now we want to set the rider's animation blueprint back to its original one. Now we do need to get the mesh. Drag off here. Set anim instance class. Select the animation blueprint that you're using. I'm using the third person anim BP. And connect these. And now we can toggle the input, repossess the player. Tick enabled, compile and save. Go to the player also and compile and save. And this should work for dismounting player. Let's go back to our game. Press play, spawn a mount. Comes, can detect the mount. F to interact with it, move around, F again to get off, and it works. Let me move that detach. Let's see, detach location. Let's move it to the side. -19 the Y. Can't save. Okay, cool. Now that's that. Now let's make it so you can only have one mount in the world at a time. So let's open the blueprint. And before we spawn the mount, let's check if there's a mount already in the world. So get or actors of class, get the mount actor, drag out actors, this is an array, and just get copy, get the first one, and then is valid, and if it is not valid, then you can spawn. So let's just check in if there's any of these guys in the world, and if there is, get the first one. But if there's no one in the world which is not valid, then you can spawn. We can test this out quickly right now. Spawn one, and I'll keep on pressing and no other guy will be spawned. Okay, now let's also make it that if you get far enough away from your mount, he disappears. So for this, let's create a new function. A function is just going to be like a little piece of code that we can plug into our event graph. So we have our functions, press plus. Let's call it check dist from player. And now we can just get actor location. So it's going to get this actor's location. Then let's get player character, get actor location as well. It's minus vector. And let's get the length, vector length. And then let's check if it is greater, or yeah, greater than, let's say, 2000. Branch. Let's connect these up. And if it is greater than 2000, then destroy actor. So this is the location of the mount and the player. If you minus them, you get the distance between the mount and the player. Let's gain that length, and it's greater than 2000. That is true, then destroy this actor. Let's test that out. Spawn. You'll follow us now, but if we get in him, move him to the side, get out, and run away. 2000 might be a bit too far. I can actually print. Oh, this is even plugged in anyway. Let's put this in the tick. Check for distance of player. And we can even print the distance. So just drag the vector length into the int string, and we'll convert the float to a, what's this? A string, yeah. Okay, so make sure you got that function, check dist from player. You got to connect it to the tick function. Tick is checking every few intervals for whatever you ask it to tick. So I spawned, and you see those numbers or the distance. Now they're 0 because I'm on the vehicle. Let me move him this side because this side's not shady. Away, now 1000 away, and there he disappeared because I'm 2000 away. And now I can spawn him again. And I can't spawn another guy. And that's that, guys. And before you leave, just save all. Okay, and that's that, guys. Thanks for watching. If this was useful, please consider giving me a like, so I know my content is appreciated. If you want to see future tutorials, then please consider subscribing as well. Also, if you have any ideas for tutorials I can make, please leave them in the comments. And please tell me what you think about these 2 tutorials video series I made. Give me any critiques on how I am compared to other tutorial guys, so I can do better. Yeah, thanks for watching, guys. Cheers.